It's time for Watts on Wealth Radio with Barry Watts and your host, Ralph Hipp.
Welcome in this lovely Sunday to Watts on Wealth. I'm Ralph Hipp, and we're joined today by Matt Dean, the Senior Health Advisor at Barry Watts WealthCare Corporation. Well, the reason Matt is here, he's known as Medicare Matt. If you've heard Barry and Jeremy and me on the show with Matt, he's Medicare Matt. And we're talking about the open enrollment period. We're now less than a month from the end of that. It's in full swing, meaning now is the perfect time to talk over upcoming changes to Medicare for 2026, how families all around the Ozarks can get ready accordingly. First of all, Barry, we miss you, buddy. We've enjoyed you in Radio Magic, in reruns, but I've got just Matt and me. Matt, it's great to have you as my main host on the show today. And how are you, sir? How was your week?
Doing real well, Ralph. Good to hear from you again. How's your week been?
Oh, it's been terrific. We had some very good weather here around the Ozarks and a lovely time of the year, fall in the Ozarks, and 'tis a privilege to live in the Ozarks. And I'm really glad you and I can get together, and we're going to run the show while Barry's away this weekend and talk about Medicare, your thing. As I mentioned, we're less than a month now. December 7th is the deadline to get that all changed. Let me ask you before we start, we have some questions we want to go through. I went to the Medicare.gov website. I did not want to change anything, so I did not do anything. There was no button to click, keep what you already have. Did I do the right thing? If we don't make any changes, we don't do anything. Do I need to go back on the website?
You're exactly right, Ralph. In order to keep the plan that you've been enjoying for the longest time, you're all good to go. If you just make no changes, it will roll over automatically.
All right. I know a lot of us are in that boat, so to speak. So, friends, if you're keeping what you have, do like me. You didn't have to click a thing. So, Matt, let's talk about what is the open enrollment period, the meaning of that, the significance for seniors all around Springfield enrolled in Medicare and plan to be enrolled in 2026.
Well, I refer to open enrollment as the open season for Medicare. It is the perfect window of time to take a look at what sort of coverage you've had for the last year and take a look at what's coming down the pipeline for changes to Medicare in the next year and ask yourself a handful of important questions, which is, am I expecting to have any new medications for the coming year? Am I expecting any surgeries to get done next year? Do I need to change and make a pivot? And that's what the open enrollment period is all about. And I hear from folks all the time, whether I should make a change, this time of year. And the question really depends on, what you have and what you need. And for a lot of seniors nowadays, according to a new study that came out from KFF, most Americans, as much as 54%, have their Medicare coverage through Medicare Advantage. That's their preferred path. And the real question that I get from people is, what is Medicare Advantage? How does that all work? You hear so many things about it. Some people say it's the best thing since sliced bread. And other people will say, oh, no, you don't want Advantage. You might want to avoid that like the plague. So a really simple way to think about Advantage is it's when you get your health insurance coverage from a private insurance company. So that insurance company has a contract with Medicare, the Centers for Medicare Services, and they're just moving that responsibility over to the insurance company. And a lot of the times, folks will see Medicare Advantage plans with a very low monthly premium or sometimes no premium at all. And they have this ability to add in all of these extra benefits like a gym membership or a little spending card at the grocery store, the pharmacy. Ralph, you've heard of this, haven't you?
Yeah. I go back to that phrase, you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of us just don't know about those extra advantages that are not so, burdensome. Coverage for surgeries and coverage for more medications, which we have a hard time affording. There are some very good things in Medicare, huh?
Yeah, absolutely right. But whenever you see some perks that come from these Medicare Advantage plans, the other question that you might have is, this sounds a little bit too good to be true. What's the catch? And a lot of the times the catch comes in the form of higher deductibles or co-pays or maybe a little less coverage for those prescriptions that you get from the pharmacy. And that's kind of how they get you. So That's just one path to getting your Medicare needs taken care of. The other path that you'll hear from people is the Medicare supplement, which provides a whole lot more flexibility in my mind. Don't have to worry about any pesky networks or worrying about whether your doctor or the hospital you like is in network.
Great.
It is a
Very
great
good.
deal.
Yeah, very good. Hey, let's get the phone number out, and you may just call the WealthCare Corporation, and we hope you will this week. Leave a message today, text the word visit today, or call tomorrow. And you may just want to ask for, I need to talk to Medicare Matt. So it's 417-200-3500 all around Springfield and Joplin, 417-200-3500 to the WealthCare Corporation. We mentioned prescriptions and surgeries, any changes in that, to go to the website and make those alterations. Matt, is there anything else you want to add to the list of why would we need to make changes to the Medicare coverage we have for 2026? Anything else you want to add in there?
Well, that's a great question, Ralph. And, there are some years where the insurance company will change what prescriptions are covered under these drug plans. So that's a really, really important thing to stay on top of. Even
All right.
though you might not change your medical coverage, stay on top of those prescription drugs.
And you don't require any referrals to a specialist. Is that true, to go on the website and make any changes? You don't have to enter any referral of somebody new you're going to be seeing in 2026?
Well, that's another important consideration. If you're looking at seeing a specialist, there's a section on the Medicare.gov website where you can check to see if that specialist is in the network for your Medicare Advantage plan. And of course, if you've got the supplement, don't even worry about it. You can see any doc in the country as long as they accept Medicare patients.
All right. Is there anything about the alphabet soup you want to mention? And we'll get into this several times during the show, I'm sure, Matt. Medicare Part A, B, and D. Are there any alterations in all the things that have been written up in Congress and bills that have passed? Things we should know about? Once again, that I didn't know that, and you don't know what you don't know. So about the alphabet soup and the A, B, and D. Any thoughts on that?
Well, here's my idea, Ralph. Whoever came up with this idea of reusing acronyms for parts and plans when it comes to Medicare, they should have been fired a long, long time ago. This is the area where I see much confusion.
We're in that period of firing government workers, Matt. So they may hear you if they're listening to the show.
Right? Yeah, I should be careful. I should be careful what I wish for.
But go, Matt, that's a good idea. Let's let them go. But no, they did come. We still have A, B, and D. And is there a Part C? Are we missing that?
There is a Part C. So Part C, all you need to know there is that is Medicare Advantage. So it's really intuitive to think, oh, I need all of these parts, all four parts. I need A, B, C, and D. No. Part C is the alternative to a Medicare supplement. So you don't need all four. In fact, you really should only have 3 parts to your complete Medicare plan.
Now, regarding changes to Medicare, what's the idea of what we retirees can do to protect ourselves and our spouses? Let's talk about, people protection here.
Well, an important consideration for protecting your family as you hear about these different changes with Medicare is making sure you have eyes on what that change is and taking a look at some spots where you may be vulnerable. So let's say currently you've got a Medicare plan that's kind of pricey. Maybe it's squeezing you in the monthly budget. One of the things that changes with Medicare every year is premiums must go up, and that includes Part B. And for a lot of Americans, millions and millions of people, those Part B premiums come out of their Social Security check. So you might see a little bit less benefit to your Social Security, and that's just because Medicare has become more expensive. So maybe you want to consider a plan that's going to be, still adequate, providing the coverage that you need, but not so pricey. Sometimes Medicare supplements, if you hold on to it for a number of years, the insurance company can sneak up those higher costs on you. So even if you have a supplement plan that you're perfectly happy with, shop it. Make sure you're still paying a competitive rate.
Hey, friends, this is Ralph Hipp along with Medicare Matt Dean of the WealthCare Corporation. You're listening to What's on Wealth this Sunday, and with Medicare open enrollment time, we always look ahead to that time of the year and said, I can't wait to do our radio show about Medicare. We've got Medicare Matt Dean on the show with us. and to have your own conversation with Matt. What are your concerns? Do you need to make any changes for 26? Get with Matt, 417-200-3500. Matt, I'm in the pre-diabetes club, and for those of us who are on the verge of, having our A1C top that level, anything you want to say to us about, people with serious heart conditions, or they have crossed that line, their blood sugar now qualifies them as having type 1 or type 2 diabetes? And how does Medicare help us or not so much help us on that?
Ralph, you ask a great question. So typically, I'm a big fan of Medicare supplement plans, which provide really robust coverage most of the time, depending on, the kind of plan that you have. Maybe it's a G or an N. Some of those diabetes medications and supplies can get really, really expensive for folks. So one example of where a supplement may not be a good idea is if you have one of these chronic conditions. Medicare Advantage, in a newer innovation, has built custom-made plans for folks with those diagnoses, and it can make a huge difference on your wallet each year. Having more coverage for the prescription medications that you need, maybe it's Ozempic or Mounjaro to get your levels under control. Consider a Medicare Advantage chronic special needs plan. It can make a whole world of difference. In some cases, it can be life-changing. I've seen it happen.
And Matt, is it possible to save thousands of dollars with the right Medicare coverage if we go on the website and make a few changes? We could save a lot of money?
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Hey, get with Matt. Once again, let me give you that number, 417-200-3500, 200-3500 for the WealthCare Corporation. Matt and I love to check in and ask, have you already had people call in and say, I've heard the show when you and Barry and Jeremy are all there. We have our happy group of 4. Today, it's just Matt Dean and me. We're glad you're with us, so we'll include you as a very special guest on the show here, friends. But have you had people call in and say, I need to talk to Medicare Matt Dean? Has it happened already?
Absolutely. I've accrued a small fan club between Jeremy and I. We also teach some classes at the Brentwood Library Center, so I get a little bit of name recognition from time to time. It's a really cool thing to see.
Isn't it something, though? This is a very special show, and, Barry's a very special guy, and we're going to have Jeremy, I believe, on our next program about Social Security. But when we all get together, especially with Dr. Watts, it's some kind of a special show, isn't it, when Barry's here?
Oh, you betcha.
All right. Well, we're glad you're with us here. Once again, this is Ralph Hipp with Matt Dean, just Matt and me and you, talking about Medicare. Time for a break on the show and back with more of our conversation. We are getting you ready for Medicare Advantage in A, B, and D, and maybe Part C on our program today. We'll take a break and be back right after this.
Explore how Barry Watts can support your financial aspirations. Set a consultation by texting VISIT to 417-200-3500. Discover the possibilities at 417-200-3500 with a simple VISIT text.
Do you think you'll pay lower taxes in retirement? Really? Many people go into retirement assuming that, but end up paying as much, if not more, in taxes than when they were working. How taxes can affect your retirement is one of the chapters in Watts on Wealth, the latest book written by local tax strategist and retirement designer Barry Watts of the WealthCare Corporation. Barry takes you through the many tax considerations you should make before you retire. To get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, call 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. The book is full of actionable retirement tips and strategies Barry has gathered from his more than 30-year career in helping families just like yours retire successfully. Get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, now by calling 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. Advisory services provided through WealthCare Asset Management, LLC.
For a more confident retirement journey, get Barry Watts' WealthCare Kit. Discover strategies addressing life's biggest retirement obstacles. Request yours by texting KIT to 417-200-3500. Again, that's KIT to 417-200-3500.
Welcome back into more Watts on Wealth. Today, Matt Dean and me, Ralph Hipp, we're tackling some of the most confusing, critical aspects of retirement planning, Medicare. We're doing our very special yearly show, which I hope we can have you here maybe a couple more times before the deadline. We're talking about Medicare open enrollment before that deadline of December 7th. You know, Matt, when I talk to friends who are getting 65 and getting on up there, I'm 71 and a half right now, I've mentioned on the show. And when they're getting near 65, they're overwhelmed by how complex Medicare is with Part A and Part B and C and D, Medigap policies like the alphabet soup. Let's get back to that, and let me start with one of the more fundamental questions. When somebody's approaching the age of eligibility for Medicare, what's a very important thing they need to understand to avoid making a very costly mistake? We've said we can save thousands of dollars, but we could lose a lot of money too, couldn't we?
That's exactly right. And there's a couple of ways to save money when it comes to Medicare. And we already discussed a little bit briefly. Having the right plan can make that big difference. But additionally, having the right plan in place, your approach to getting started with Medicare can make a big difference for you. And one of the most common windows that we see people sign up for Medicare has nothing to do with what time of year it is. It has to do with when they turn age 65. This is called the initial enrollment period. And here's the way that it works. 3 months before the month that somebody turns 65, the month that they turn 65, and then 3 months after is the window where they can get signed up for Medicare at age 65 and avoid penalties for Part A, B, and D. And for some folks, if they miss that deadline and they don't have a special circumstance or a special case scenario where, they fall under some exception rule, then they can be stuck with permanent lifetime penalties that can get very, very expensive. So if you qualify for a special enrollment period, maybe you're working past the age of 65. That's really, really common for retirees nowadays. Or maybe you went to sign up for Medicare and there was some sort of a natural disaster, hurricane, tornado, just completely wiped the town clean. Then there's a special exception. You can delay signing up for Medicare because, well, you've been experiencing some bad times. So what do those penalties look like? The Part B penalty is a 10% increase for every year that you delay signing up for Medicare, and that 10% gets more and more expensive every year. We know that Medicare, that Part B premium, gets a little bit more expensive every year. So when you account for insurance becoming more expensive and that 10% increase, it can really sneak up on you.
Yeah, 10% increase for every year-long delay. Part B, again, is which part, Matt? What does it cover?
That covers the medical insurance component of Medicare. Yeah. So Part A is hospital. Think hospital-related bills and stays in the hospital.
For
Part B, yeah. For Part B, think doctor bills. Every time you see your physician or need a surgery or some sort of procedure done, Part B is going to chip in and help you cover that.
Well, that 10% premium increase, that's pretty sobering, especially right now with everything going up, lifetime penalties for missing a deadline. That's why we're doing our show, friends. We don't want you to miss that December 7th deadline. And I've heard, Matt, some people say they just sign up for the parts they need when they need them, but that window is open now. So somebody might think, well, I really don't take any prescription drugs. Why do I need Part D? But let me hearken back to the people in prediabetes. If you need something, when you cross that level, you are type 1, type 2 diabetes. Can you explain why the thinking of, I don't take any prescriptions, why do I need Part D, could be a big financial mistake for us?
Absolutely. And I've been asked this question before, and the answer has to do with these same penalties. So Part B is not the only part of Medicare where you can experience a penalty. Part D, D stands for drugs and drug coverage. You'll have a 1% monthly premium increase for every month that you wait to sign up for Medicare Part D and don't have that creditable coverage that Medicare is looking for. So 1%, in the short term, that really doesn't sound so bad. But that 1% is not based on the Part D plan that you have. It's actually based on the national average for drug plan premiums. So even if you have a plan that has a pretty low premium, and that premium's going to increase over time with inflation, something like a 6 or 12% penalty, depending on how long you wait to sign up for Medicare Part D, can really be consequential. I mean, you can add thousands of dollars in a handful of years to your Medicare bill and not even realize it.
Hey, we're talking to Medicare Matt Dean of the WealthCare Corporation on the Barry Watts program about Medicare and the open enrollment sign-up period. So to get with Matt while Barry's out of town briefly, call for Matt. Matt, I need your help. It's 417-200-3500, 200-3500 to Matt Dean at the WealthCare Corporation. Another possible surprise we've heard about, Matt, that's lurking out there, the relationship between people's income in retirement and the cost of Medicare premiums. And a lot of us in retirement were stunned when we find out their Medicare costs are higher than we thought they would be. What's happening on that front? And we include old Aunt Irma, don't we?
Oh, yes. I call her Ugly Aunt Irma. IRMAA is a phantom tax on your Medicare if you've been enjoying a high taxable income. So that can raise some really interesting questions. Some folks have a pretty high income just a couple of years before they retire, and they may not know that without the proper planning, they could be paying more for their Medicare premiums, the cost of their Medicare, even though they're not working anymore. And so those premium increases can add up to hundreds of dollars per month in extra costs that folks didn't originally account for when they were setting up their retirement plan. And the way that this high income can sneak up on you is that IRMAA looks at your modified adjusted gross income from 2 years before. So let's say in 2025, they're going to take a look at your 2023 modified adjusted gross income levels to find out how much you're going to be paying for Medicare this year.
And they were saying you were making too much.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So what is modified adjusted gross income? It's just your adjusted gross income plus any other non-taxable income that you might have seen that year. So if you have any municipal bonds, that interest is actually going to be added to your modified adjusted gross income. So IRMAA affects not just Part B premiums that come out of your Social Security check, or maybe you're paying a bill that shows up in the mail every month, but it also affects Part D. Usually you may have a pretty small premium for a Part D plan, but that also can add hundreds or even thousands of dollars a year to your Medicare costs. And folks that are looking at making Roth conversions to help supplement their tax-free income later on in retirement, be sure that you're paying close attention to IRMAA, because that can actually reduce the kind of tax-free or tax savings that a Roth conversion would otherwise give you.
All right. And I know aside from Medicare, a lot of people it's a hot topic of doing a Roth conversion toward the end of the year for the future tax benefits on all kinds of fronts. But it sounds like doing a Roth at the wrong time would lead to a lot higher Medicare premiums. So how do you help us navigate our way through that?
Well, it certainly can increase your Medicare premiums if you're not keeping in check what the proper amount to convert is. It's really easy just to look at your estimated income for the year and how many dollars you have left in your current tax bracket. But there are other tax figures that you should pay attention to, like these IRMAA brackets, to make sure you're not increasing the cost of your conversion by accident. But folks, you're in good news. I've got some good news for you, I should say, rather.
What is that?
Well, if let's say you recently retired and you're expecting to have some IRMAA penalties, there is a way to appeal and tell Social Security, tell Medicare, whoa, my income just dropped off the face of the earth compared to what it was a year ago. I should not have to pay these higher costs for IRMAA. And as long as you can get a hold of a specialist, find the right paperwork to submit, most of the time you'll win the appeal.
Wow. So with all that stuff going on, Matt, we can see why we need some help, your help with this. And who would think taking money from their own retirement account would make their health insurance more expensive? Like you're supposed to pay as you go, but it's more expensive that way. So what kind of help can people get from the WealthCare Corporation, Matt, if they're already battling these higher premiums or worried that might trigger higher premiums?
Well, Ralph, I've actually got a story to answer your question here. Earlier this year, I was meeting with a family who were experiencing a pretty big jump in these IRMAA penalties, and the cost of their Medicare was already so expensive. And when I told them about this appeal process, that there's a way to push back and fight the federal government a little bit, and we went ahead and sent in the paperwork and made sure that any conversions that we did for them, we were going to stay well below those IRMAA thresholds that I mentioned earlier. And, we played the waiting game. A couple months went by. We finally heard back from Social Security. And here's what we found. We won the appeal for them, and it added at a minimum, $1,000 back to their Social Security benefits each month. So it's really, really important to make sure that you're talking with somebody about Medicare that knows not just the Medicare system real well, but the tax system really well, which doors to knock on to make sure that you're playing by the rules and using them to your advantage.
On income and penalties and the appeal process you mentioned, would we start the appeal process on our own, or would you start that with us? What's the process on appealing that, Matt, that you've been describing?
Well, the place that I always look is taking a look at your tax returns and your estimated income for the year that we're looking at making the appeal. Can we prove to the government that your income has dropped and it's dropped well below those IRMAA thresholds to make sure that the cost of your Medicare is going to drop in the coming year?
Okay. Hey, alongside Medicare, Matt Dean of Springfield's WealthCare Corporation, and we welcome our friends listening in Joplin. Give him a call. You can specifically ask for Matt if you'd like to. 417-200-3500, all around the Ozarks, Springfield area code 417-200-3500. Stay tuned. We're going to take a little break for news. I wonder, Matt, if they're going to mention Medicare on the news coming up here. We'll see. Any news on Medicare? Keep your ear to the ground on that. But stay tuned for more of our radio show. When we come back for the second half of our program, Matt and I will begin to tackle some situations which confuse a lot of people, like what happens if you're still working at 65, you have very good employer insurance, or if your husband or wife is younger and they depend on your work coverage. What about that? What's on Wealth, the radio show, continues after this break. I'm Ralph Hipp along with Matt Dean. Don't go far. We'll be back in just a few minutes here.
Unsure of how market volatility might impact your investments? Speak with Barry Watts, who can offer strategies tailored to withstand market fluctuations. Just text VISIT to 417-200-3500 to meet with Barry Watts today. Again, text VISIT to 417-200-3500.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will your roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a pretty good run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather a financial storm? Now may be a great time to get a second opinion on your retirement plan. Call Barry Watts and the team at WealthCare at 417-200-3500 now. They'll examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Barry Watts and the team at WealthCare today at 417-200-3500 to get your no-obligation second opinion. Don't let your retirement get caught in the rain. Call 417-200-3500. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk.
Prepare for retirement with key insights from Barry Watts' WealthCare Kit. Get your essential guide by texting KIT to 417-200-3500 and start planning today. That's 417-200-3500, KIT.
Welcome back as we get to the second half of our program, What's on Wealth, the radio show for this Sunday right here on The Talk. And I'm Ralph Hipp along with Matt Dean, the Medicare specialist for the WealthCare Corporation. We want to get back to our discussion, something affecting a lot of our listeners. What if you're turning 65 and not interested in Medicare? Now, you're still working, you love working and have great coverage. I'm sure we have friends who love their jobs and they have fantastic health insurance through their employer and they don't want to retire yet. So if they're still working and have a good plan, do they still have to sign up for Medicare at 65? They have to be prepared for anything that happens, Matt?
Well, Ralph, you're asking a really good question, and I think it's becoming more and more relevant to today's retirees. Back in the day, it was really common to just hang it up and be done at age 65, but more and more people are deciding, I really enjoy what I'm doing and I'm making a difference, and I shouldn't have to change my health insurance to keep making that difference to my family and to my community. So the good news is, yeah, you can delay signing up for Medicare as long as you take the proper approach to it. So, for folks that are still working, it may make sense for them to sign up for Medicare Part A, which thankfully doesn't have a monthly premium, and they can delay their Part B, which does have, a costlier monthly premium. So they don't have to pay for double the insurance and only use the coverage that they have through their employer. And that can be the case for you, listener, if your company employs at least 20 people. The arrangement is a little bit different for smaller firms. They might set you up with a special Medicare plan if it's a smaller company. But I work with people all the time that delay Medicare until they're 66, 67, even 68 years old and still avoid penalties.
All right. Now, what if somebody, they do want to retire at 65 and go on Medicare, Matt, but their spouse is just 62, and that person's been covered under the older spouse's employer plan. So the younger spouse isn't old enough for Medicare yet. Can you describe what happens in that situation? Like, well, my husband or wife is still working. I'd rather be on their plan, or we think it's a good idea for both of us to have some good Medicare supplemental coverage.
Well, Ralph, this can be a really, really tricky situation, and there's not always a perfect answer for what somebody should do in this situation. If one spouse is getting ready to hop on to Medicare, and let's say they found a plan that they like, the rule is that spouse that's going on to Medicare cannot bring their younger spouse onto Medicare and have that dual coverage. It's individual only. So that's
individual only. Yeah,
that's exactly right. So younger spouses have a couple of options. So number one, they can sign up for COBRA, at least for a time. It may only be a year or two, maybe maximum 3 years. And however long they're on COBRA, they should expect the cost of that COBRA insurance to get pretty expensive over time, maybe prohibitively expensive. So
and Matt, let me jump in about the letters in alphabet soup. And the COBRA plan is what as an option? What does that stand for?
Well, COBRA has nothing to do with Medicare. COBRA is a continuation of the health insurance that a spouse or an employee had through their previous employer.
Okay.
And so COBRA is where you're going to pay the premiums that you've been paying while you were working, but you're also going to pay the premiums that your employer was paying for you. So it can quickly double the cost of that employer health insurance in a pretty short amount of time.
Well, Matt, we know a lot of older people, they worry about a lot of things, especially these days, and worry about the possibility of needing long-term care like a nursing home. And it's incredibly expensive, into the thousands of dollars a month. And does Medicare actually pay for any nursing home costs at all?
Well, Medicare used to pay for long-term care kinds of costs, and it didn't last for very long. Maybe 40, 50 years ago, Medicare would pay the way of the beneficiaries through long-term care, but that's not the case anymore. And it only covers a little bit of care. There is a provision that pays for short-term skilled nursing kinds of care up to 100 days. That's a little bit longer than 3 months. That can certainly make a difference for families that are, needing some kind of a solution. But that solution's only available after a 3-day long stay in the hospital. That's what it takes to qualify for those 3 months that Medicare can help pay for. So that may not always be available. And if Medicare is not going to pay, then what about Medicaid? Medicaid can pay for long-term care. It may not be the best care available out there, but the rule is you actually have to spend down your assets first to qualify for Medicaid. And they have had to be spent down for at least 5 years to make that work.
And I want to make sure our listeners know that planning for health care and retirement isn't just about picking the right plans. What you have to do, friends, and hopefully with Matt Dean's help, is integrate Medicare and your long-term care expenses as part of what's happening in your overall retirement financial strategy. And Matt has gone through long-term care, Medicare. So we're out. We're not in that business. So given all these complexities we're talking about on the show today, it's clear getting professional guidance isn't helpful. It's really essential right now, Matt. And so being essential to get some help on Medicare and long-term care, what do we look for in seeking help with these decisions? I know the first thing is hopefully calling you at the office.
That's exactly right. And with really big problematic situations like these, it really is important to get help. And, and it may not be my kind of help, but I encourage people to reach out and get help from somebody. And ideally, that person's going to have a breadth of knowledge with Medicare, with other long-term care solutions. And because we're looking at Medicare so deeply, making sure that we're keeping as many dollars in your pocket as possible, it's going to be really helpful to have somebody that has a breadth of knowledge when it comes to taxes as well, planning income all the way out to age 100 ideally.
So for our friends listening in, by the way, let me get you Matt's phone number, 417-200-3500 for Medicare Matt Dean. Get some help on your sign up. You don't have to navigate that website alone. And Matt, would you recommend they call maybe before they go to the Medicare.gov website, meet with Matt first, and then you could navigate the website with them? Or what would be some of the best ways?
Go ahead and give me a call. The Medicare website can wait, and I can show you some excellent pointers to make it work to your advantage.
Super. That is a great idea. So for those of you listening right now, you're in that critical window. We're in that critical window through December the 7th of Medicare sign up to make any changes, or the window of you're turning 65 soon, if that's a magic number to get on Medicare. In the annual enrollment period, what other things should we be doing right now, Matt, to make sure we don't fall into the costly traps you and I have talked about on the show today?
Well, I think it has to do with putting together what we've been discussing in a way that's really, really comprehensive. So even if you're several months away from turning 65, make sure you understand what the best window to sign up for is, and make sure you're avoiding those penalties appropriately. Whether it's 65, whether you're working past 65, know your plan as you're getting ready to pull the trigger. And also make sure that you understand what kind of needs you'll have in retirement. Are you going to be doing some traveling? Will you stay local? Any foreign travel? Is the cost of your care, are you expecting that it'll be really, really expensive? All of these areas are things that will inform which plan you should have in retirement, whether you should take the Medicare Advantage path or whether you should take the Medicare supplement path. Even a decision like that can make a huge, huge difference into how successful your retirement will be.
Matt, let me also ask you about people who are on disability. Is that through Social Security where they get that? And how does Social Security fuse in with Medicare and what we receive from the program on those two fronts?
You betcha. So Medicare and Social Security they're kind of sister departments to the federal government. And usually when I see people that have qualified for Medicare because of a disability, they've been receiving disability benefits from Social Security for at least 24 months. And that 25th month is what allows them to qualify for Medicare. So even navigating a big mess like that, talking back and forth to these government agencies that have turned into swamp monsters over the years, swamp monsters of bureaucracy, it can be a real challenge.
Are we draining the swamp on that, Matt? Or these swamp creatures are a different kind of creature?
Being an Ozarkian, my persuasion is I sure would like to have that swamp drained. It stinks. It's time to freshen it up.
Oh, boy. Well, we hope you can freshen up your Medicare. And one more question before we get to some great questions from our listeners. We're going to let kind of you ask Matt your question in just a moment here on the final part of the show. But also, I wanted to know if we've been on Medicare.gov and we haven't clicked because, I'm going to keep what I have as I did. I didn't make any changes. But if we made some changes and saved those changes and sent them into Washington, which are they even open right now? Can we meet with you again, and can we go back on Medicare.gov and have a second do-over? Can we go back and make alterations for a second time, or do we only get one chance?
That's a great question, Ralph. You can make as many switches as you wish when it comes to this time of year, but the last one that you picked, coming December 7th, that's the last day you can make a switch. Whatever your final selection was, that is going to be what you stick with for the coming year.
Matt, gosh, we've learned so much. Talk about that. I didn't know that, and I don't know what I don't know. So you are certainly helping with that. And Matt can tailor a conversation to your specific needs on Medicare. He's great at this. This is what he does at the WealthCare Corporation. So call and ask for Matt Dean. Say, I heard Matt on the radio. I need to get with Matt right away because the clock is ticking. We're not even talking year end December 31st of what you need to do for your taxes and get that lined up for April. We're talking about Medicare sign up through the 7th of December. So text the word visit right away, even today, 417-200-3500, or call and leave a message or call tomorrow. I need to talk to Matt Dean. And Matt, I've sure enjoyed talking to you. We're not done yet. We have more questions from our listeners. Matt, are you going to be ready for that in a moment here?
You betcha. You betcha.
All right. We'll see what's on your mind as Watts on Wealth returns for this Sunday right after this.
Curious about securing your financial future? Barry Watts brings expertise to your retirement plans. Arrange a meeting by texting VISIT to 417-200-3500. Again, it's VISIT to 417-200-3500.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will your roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a pretty good run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather a financial storm? Now may be a great time to get a second opinion on your retirement plan. Call Barry Watts and the team at WealthCare at 417-200-3500 now. They'll examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Barry Watts and the team at WealthCare today at 417-200-3500 to get your no-obligation second opinion. Don't let your retirement get caught in the rain. Call 417-200-3500. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk.
Market volatility can be daunting, but having a strategy in place can provide stability amidst the uncertainty. Consult with us to learn about approaches that address market ups and downs. Call 417-200-3500 to set an appointment and secure your financial footing. Again, just call 417-200-3500.
I'd say 95% of the time, along with Barry, answer your listener questions to conclude our program. So Matt and I are tailoring this final segment to your questions about Medicare, what he knows about the best. So Matt, you ready to go? Let's see what they're thinking and saying out there.
You betcha. Let's see what they got to say.
All right. This person writes, "Hi, Matt. Glad to hear you on the radio, and you're the star of the show today, buddy. My husband and I started comparing our drug plans, and shopping for Dave wasn't simple enough, but I take brand name injections for my severe allergies. We haven't found one single plan that covers those. Without coverage, we're looking at paying thousands of dollars for this medication, so we're at a loss for what to do." This is from Nancy about the high cost of her injectable prescription medication. What do you say to Nancy?
Well, Nancy, thank you for sending in your question. And the first thing that I want you to hear is you're not alone when it comes to problems like this. I see this happen from time to time, and it can feel really, really discouraging to not find a drug plan that can cover some more expensive medications. So one thing that you might consider is reach out to your doctor's office and see if it's a possibility to receive this medication at an injection center or an infusion center nearest you. And one thing that people don't know when it comes to Medicare is that Medicare Part B can provide excellent coverage for specialty medications like this that have to be administered via injection. And I've seen folks with a similar situation that receive their medications from these injection centers. And that way, Medicare pays more of the cost so that you don't have to pay an arm and a leg at the pharmacy. So it may not be a perfect solution. You know, it would be nice to have the pharmacy cover that outright, but consider whether a monthly appointment may work better into your schedule than coming up with the money to self-administer that exact same prescription.
And that would be covered under Part B, the doctor visits part?
That's exactly right. So the rule there is that if the doctor or some medical professional administers that medication, it could be covered under Medicare Part B coverage rather than Part D.
Very good. And this is from Mike. Dear Watts on Wealth team, I've heard that if you make a lot of money, you have a high income before you start Medicare, it causes you to pay more for your premiums. So I'm interested in retiring next year, but I'm a little worried about paying more for my Medicare than I expected because I do pretty well financially. So what's your answer? This is from Mike.
Well, Mike, I've got good news and bad news for you. The good news is that, well, there are ways around this, but the bad news is that it is true. High income earners that are also Medicare beneficiaries will have to pay more for their Medicare Part B and their Part D premiums. And that penalty is called IRMAA, the Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. So make sure that any tax planning that you are looking at doing accounts for this phantom tax on your Medicare. But the good news is that you can appeal Medicare's decision if you think they got it wrong. So, Mike, upon your retirement, as long as your income drops when you retire, you can go back to Social Security, go back to Medicare and say, hey, I think you guys should take another look at this. I'm no longer making this kind of income. I'm retired now, and I think you should reconsider. And as long as you've got your ducks in a row, there can be a pretty good chance that you can win that fight, Mike. So best of luck to you.
There you go. Yeah, we discussed that appeal process, and think about that, folks, if you need it. Boy, so far, some great answers to some great questions, Matt. Here's another one from Cynthia. I turned 64 this year, Matt, but I don't plan on retiring till I'm 67. I know a lot of people that signed up for Medicare. They do so when they turn 65. That's kind of the rollover age when they like to do that. So she's asking, does this mean I would have to drop my employer health insurance next year? So when she turns 65, or can she have kind of a hybrid of both?
Well, Cynthia, you won't have to drop your employer coverage. That's some good news for you.
Good. All
now,
right.
Ralph, what you mentioned with the hybrid coverage is that when you turn 65, it might make sense to sign up for Medicare Part A because it doesn't have a monthly premium and it's got a little bit of coverage in case you need the hospital between now and retirement. But for the vast majority of Americans, they won't have to pay any monthly premium for Part A as long as they qualify for Social Security benefits. So go ahead and wait to sign up for Medicare Part B until after you retire, and that way you're not paying double and only getting one type of coverage that you'll actually be using.
I like that. So it's not a hybrid. It's you're duplicating, and you don't want to do that, do you?
Absolutely.
No. All right. Matt, I'm starting Medicare before I start to claim Social Security. I know there's a monthly cost for Medicare. How do I pay for it? So this is before they go on the Social Security rolls.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's really common for retirees to have their Medicare Part B premiums just deducted from their Social Security check. It's pretty nice, pretty convenient, and they don't actually feel money leaving their bank account in that sense. So that's kind of nice. But if there's one thing that you should never have to worry about is that the government will find a way, one way or another, to get their money. So don't worry.
They will.
So, yeah, that's absolutely right. So if you're not on Social Security yet, what will likely happen is you'll receive a bill in the mail from Social Security or Medicare for those Part B premiums, and you can just pay it like you would any other bill. In fact, if you haven't already, go ahead and create a login with SSA.gov, the Social Security Administration. That'll be a great place to manage billing for any Medicare premiums that you might have, change the bank account where your Social Security check is going to. Or if you haven't signed up for Medicare yet, this is a great place to get started and get enrolled with Medicare Part A and Part B. So don't you worry, you can set up that automatic billing if you're not on Social Security yet.
All righty. Another good question. Thank you for that. And this is from Scott. And Scott, I can tell you, my wife and I explored this question before we took our trip to Canada in June. And I already know the answer to this. We'll let Matt answer it for you. My wife and I are really excited to travel overseas in retirement, but should some medical emergency happen, how would Medicare cover our medical expenses while we're out of the country?
Well, Scott, I hope you and the missus enjoy seeing the world together. That is so exciting, and I hope you have a marvelous time. It'll be a really, really enriching experience for you guys. But the first thing that I would want to know before I can really speak to this question is, what kind of Medicare coverage are you planning on having, or do you have already? And if you have a Medicare Advantage plan, I haven't seen any Advantage plan that has coverage for any overseas or out of the country travel should some kind of a medical emergency happen to you. So in that case, if your Medicare Advantage plan doesn't cover any out of the country travel, you might want to pick up additional travel insurance should something happen. But if you're looking at a Medicare supplement plan, there are some plans that do have coverage for out of the country travel. So a couple examples of supplement plans with this coverage might be a Plan G or a Plan N, and it would take care of what you need, but just be sure you know what you have. Not all of those supplements will have out of the country travel, and you might be looking at another temporary insurance plan just for your travels.
I had no idea there's a Plan G and an N. I didn't know anything about that, Matt. We just know the A, B, and D mostly. A G, N, and N, look for that. And if you travel with a group, as we were on our trip to Canada, my wife and I were part of a group of about 46 people. I wonder, does the tour company offer medical insurance, temporary medical insurance while you're out of the country to cover medical emergencies, Matt? Because Medicare won't do it.
Well, I'm sure some might, and I'm sure others won't. But one thing that I would suggest taking a look at is just take a look online and see, here's where I'm going, and here's the kind of catastrophic coverage that I'd like to have. And it could be, another private insurance company, a big brand name that you might recognize.
For a few weeks. Matt, those are our listener questions, and I do want to add in, I know our listeners would want to know, and I will ask this question. This is from Ralph. Final question of the program. Like Social Security, do they only communicate through Medicare, through the mail? If we got a call going over plans and you need to give me your credit card number right now so I can get you before the enrollment period ends, get you signed up, would they do it over the phone, or is that a scam? Can you discuss the scam part of Medicare? And that's definitely out there, isn't it?
Oh, it sure is, Ralph. That sounds like it could be a scam. Anybody that's calling that claims to be from a big institution or a federal agency that you would recognize anytime there's a lot of urgency and there's money involved, I would be incredibly skeptical. And, it's important to keep in mind during the annual enrollment period, from the middle of October, the 15th of October through December the 7th, retirees get all sorts of correspondence from the mail or over the phone wanting to talk about Medicare and Social Security. And oftentimes it is a real hassle. People are inundated with mail and phone calls and emails all the time during that window of the year. So I understand the pain, and it can be a real hassle, but make sure you are being thoughtful whenever you get communications like that, because you could be putting yourself in harm's way. Always verify who you're talking to and where they're calling or emailing from. It can make a big difference for you. So make sure you're staying safe.
All right. So I would be remiss if I didn't include that scam question. That is such a huge industry out there looking for your credit card number. And if they use that excuse of your credit card number to pay for your Medicare benefits, don't go for it, folks. So, Matt, just stick to the legitimate Medicare.gov website, have all your communications on the website and whatever changes we'd like to make.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Or if you've been working with a Medicare insurance agent that you trust, that you know really, really well, reach out to them. Just check in with them and just say, hey, I wasn't sure if I need to switch any plans. What are your thoughts? Would you recommend a change given some things coming down the pipeline from Medicare in the coming year? And, even if you do get a suspicious call, capture those details and run it by them. Hey, was this legit? Do I need to call these people back, or was this a scam? And they'd be able to tell you one way or another.
All right. Well, Matt Dean, you are the man. I've enjoyed our hour. We've learned a lot about Medicare, haven't we, folks? And Matt, I appreciate your time and your expertise on this.
Of course. Ralph, always great to catch up with you. Thank you.
You bet. And we'll be getting together with Jeremy Zicafus very soon about Social Security. Barry will be back with us soon. Hope you'll be back with us again next Sunday. This is Ralph Hipp for Matt Dean. Thanks for joining us for the Watts on Wealth radio show.
Thank you for stopping by Watts on Wealth. If you would like Barry and his team to help you make a plan to get to and through retirement, or would simply like a second opinion on your current plan, give us a call today at 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500. And join us again next week for Watts on Wealth.
WealthCare Corporation provides tax strategy, tax compliance, accounting, and insurance services through its affiliate American Tax Strategies, LLC. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Past performance never guarantees future results. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for information and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as the basis for personal financial decisions without first consulting a qualified advisor. The information and opinions you've heard are believed reliable but cannot be guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness.